Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download that app and then use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Luke Stuckmeyer, Corey Freedman, Cody Delmendo. We have good news. We have bad news. We have emotional news. There's a lot coming up. The winter meetings went from slow and boring to sizzling and steaming. And you can use the steaming however you want because, wow. Cody, first, let's start with the big one this morning because, Cody, you sat here and told me no less than a dozen times,
at least,
this isn't the way the Cardinals do business. They'll never sign Willson Contreras. You were telling me during the season. Yeah. You were telling me after the season. And today, Willson Contreras signs a deal with the Cardinals. The rival Cardinals, 5 years, $87.5 million.
Well, I'm going to start by saying that, listen, I'm not right all the time. Like, I am not perfect, all right? I have not always been correct. However, I do think I will forever be correct about Yadi Molina being the most overrated player of the century. I digress. Anyway, no, I'm still actually in shock. I can't believe they gave him a 5-year deal. I think that, like I said on the show last night that we did talking about Cody Bellinger, if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. I said something that if they give him something around the line of if they gave him a 5-year deal, that I think it's a gigantic mistake. And I still think that. I even compared the contract that Yadi got whenever, he was 30 years old, the contract extension the Cardinals gave him. He got a 5-year, $75 million. Contreras gets a 5-year, $87.2 or whatever it is. Like, I mean, all it does for me is line up that Willson Contreras has always been better than Yadi or Molina. So, I mean, that if there's any spin zone to it.
They've upgraded for sure.
If there's any spin zone to it for me, that's that. But, listen, I know we sat here and we complained about the Cubs not wanting to even talk extension with Contreras for the longest time. But again, like everything that's perceived around the league about him now, it's like, I guess I can understand. And if the Cubs want to go more defensive on at that position when most of every team that's won the World Series within the last 10 years has won with a defensive style catcher, then fine. Like the thing for me that bothers me the most is, or that will bother me the most about this entire situation is there's 3 things. One is if the Cubs don't make a move to replace that offense. 2, if he starts off bad and then the Contreras situation turns into a Fowler situation, in which I don't want him to get slandered by Cardinal fans all over the internet all the time. That was never fun for me to have to read. And 3, I just think that the Cubs are better off going defensive minded at that position. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I think that the Cardinals almost are saying that they never really thought that Yadi was as great as he is by doing this move. Because if Cardinal fans and all these people are going to shove down my throat that Yadi made all these pitchers so much better than what they were and all this crap, but then you go and get a guy like Contreras, who again, I think is fine defensively, but he does not rank as as one of the top defensive catchers in the league. He's one of the best hitting catchers for sure, but he does not, he doesn't make other pitchers better like we kind of saw with Yan Gomes. The splits with the pitchers, the Cubs pitchers with Yan Gomes behind the plate compared to Contreras, it's not astronomical difference, but it is different. You know what I mean? And so now the Cardinals are going into next year with Contreras as their starting catcher. And if they think that they can get him to be be somewhat close to I guess what the Cubs tried to do, then hey, I was wrong again. Okay?
I don't believe it was necessarily about the money. I do believe it was that the Cubs have decided Willson wasn't the type of catcher they wanted. Period. He just wasn't their guy anymore. He was their guy for a while, but he wasn't their guy anymore. I see, chat and Twitter align the same. Half and half, people saying he's dead to me. I can't take this.
He's not dead to me.
Do you think, Corey, that he did this to stick it to the Cubs front office, going to St. Louis? I don't believe that's the case.
I think that he got a long-term deal to be a starting catcher, and at least based on what we were reading and hearing, there were not many offers like that, if any other offers like that. We know that he had maybe a similar offer from Houston, but we know they wanted him to DH and play left field or whatever they were going to do with him. So I think he wanted to be a starting catcher. He got 5 years from St. Louis to be a starting catcher. And I think that's why he took the deal. And to your point about how everybody's feeling, he deserved to get a contract. I always believed that. He deserved the money. He did a lot for this organization, and he deserves to go out there and cash in. That said,
I was going to say there's a but coming.
That said, I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I've quite enjoyed his time in Chicago, and like I said, he deserves to seek out the best for himself and his family. But there's some weird stuff going on Cubs Twitter today.
What do you think?
People are talking about cheering for a Cardinal, rooting for no. He's on the Cardinals now.
May
that's
8th.
It.
May
that's
8th
the end
is
of
the
it.
day.
He's on the Cardinals. That's
May
it.
8th?
May 8th is the day the Cardinals come to Wrigley Field.
17th.
So early in the season. Luckily, it's not Cody's birthday. But will Willson get a standing ovation again? Will he get mixed boos and cheers, or will it just kind of be nothing?
I think he'll get an ovation. He was part of the World Series team.
But he'll be wearing a Cardinals uniform this
Dexter
time.
Fowler did the same thing. I know he didn't play here as long, but
I think it'll be
I don't
know some version of mostly positive. I don't know if he'll get a standing ovation, but I think it'll
the first
he's not going to get booed.
First plate appearance, I could see there being an ovation. But
yes. And then after that, it's done. Then
when
he's
you know,
a member of
and
the
you know what,
Cardinals.
I think you could debate this, but you know why he's not going to get booed? Because Cubs fans aren't Cardinals fans, right? It wouldn't happen the reverse.
Cardinals fans booed
right?
Chris Bryant because they took a quote out of context.
I don't think he's going to get booed. I really don't think so.
Here's one thing that another thing I say about this deal is, again, the Cubs have identified that Willson wasn't the type of catcher that they wanted moving forward, whether that was a multi-year deal. They never would have given 5 years, $87.5 million. I don't believe the Cubs would ever have given Willson anything like that. We were thinking, is he going to see that based on the way the trade deadline went down? Now, this does lead me to believe that there should have been more going on at the trade deadline than what we saw. I think this does lead me to believe that the draft pick that they're getting, their compensation pick they're getting back, is probably a mistake. They probably should have ended up with more than what they got.
Yeah. Well, then we can blame ownership for the Astros, but also they should have had a plan B just in case, right?
Absolutely. So, they let it go too close to the wire.
Looking back at the deadline, yes, I think we can all sit here and confidently say that Jed fucked that up. That's fine. I said at the deadline, and again, this was before, even I guess right at the deadline, I hadn't read all the perceived reports about Contreras and how teams feel about him. But I remember saying, either it was on the deadline show or whatever, I was like, you gotta keep him now. You have to extend him, because if you let this guy walk, then you're gonna regret it. And the only reason that I feel like we as Cubs fans might look back and might feel like we regret it is just because he went to the Cardinals. If he would have gone to the Astros, I don't think that we would be regretting much. The only reason I say this now about him going to the Cardinals is just the fact that you're gonna have to play him 13 times a year now.
If he hits walk-offs against the Cubs, it's going to be tough to swallow
Dexter
for
Fowler
Cubs
did
fans.
that once. He did it once against the Cubs. I haven't even said this yet, but I've said it on Twitter. I've said it to Corey when we're walking here. This entire situation just screams Dexter Fowler signing to me. It screams Dexter Fowler to me. Same length, 5-year deal, 80-some million. It's the same thing Dexter Fowler got. It was in a walk year. The Cubs never considered keeping him. I know he was only with the Cubs for 2 years, but still, it screams Dexter Fowler. And they're around the same age, and again, I genuinely feel like the Cardinals, if they really want to put themselves into World Series contention with the Dodgers and with the Padres and the Phillies that are spending all this money on us, instead of giving that money to Contreras, I think they should have been giving that money to Carlos Rodon or someone like that, because they're right there. They're right on the brink of being a real World Series contender, and that's what scares me about them, is that if it just takes a one or two moves, big moves for them, and then I'm like, shit, we are wild card at best, and we're going to have to watch the Cardinals be in World Series contention all year. But they haven't done anything like that, and, the offseason is still young. They could, but, again, that's how I feel about this entire situation. Screams very, very, very big Dexter Fowler signing with them vibes. I'm not upset. If I am upset, it's just because he signed with the Cardinals.
You're surprised, though. You are surprised. And thanks to everybody that's joining the chat. We got another good chat going. If you're watching it live on YouTube,
a lot of comments, and so it's hard to be able to get to all of them. So if you want us to read your comment, make sure you send a super chat.
Exactly. One thing they have to do, again, I wouldn't have given that contract to Willson. It does seem like too much, and who knows, maybe it'll turn out great for the Cardinals, and it'll be tough to swallow for Cubs fans again. But what they do need to do is replace his offensive production. This team stunk offensively last year, okay? Yeah. And they have now officially done, over, gone, lost the best offensive player on their team. Now, I know Brendan would jump in and say that it was, that Nico Horner was that guy. Some people would say Hap. If you look at the metrics, I just listened to a soundbite that the Score was playing yesterday from Carlos Correa, somebody the Cubs fans want signed if they can get him, right? He is very smart, and he was talking about the metrics, how they've changed in baseball, and he's talking about this is how you get paid. And he tells his teammates in Minnesota last year, if you want to make $200 million, forget batting average, forget home runs, forget RBIs. All the teams care about WOBA, WRC plus, OPS plus, all of these things. And he's like, these are the stats you need to make your game crafted toward, okay? And obviously he's done that. He's going to get paid. He's really good. Yeah. So I looked up those stats for the Cubs last year. Who do you think led the Cubs in WRC plus? Willson Contreras. Who led them in WOBA? Willson Contreras. Who led them in OPS? Willson. You go down the list. Every single statistical category that now matters to front offices in baseball, Willson Contreras was that guy. Now, that doesn't make him a great guy for catching or calling games necessarily, but it does make him the most productive hitter on the Cubs team last year. So for a bad offensive team, listen, the offseason has started to go well. We'll talk about Jameson Taillon in a second. What they have to do is get that shortstop still, guys. Yeah. And with Aaron Judge off this morning, we'll talk about that deal too. With Aaron Judge, I said, don't let Judge sign, because now that price has gone up, because now you have the teams that didn't get him, the Padres, the Giants. They're all going all in on the shortstops.
Yeah, so we're seeing it a bit in the chat. So I'm going to speak on what the chat is talking about. The folks in Boston are, the Bogarts in Boston reunion is heating up, according to the people in the know in Boston. It's not done, but they're saying we're getting the momentum, which typically, as you saw with Taillon last night, there's a formula for these, right?
It's actually surprising that it's taken this long to me.
Yeah,
well, there was rumored that he was done with the Red Sox, right? I think they saw Judge this morning go back to the Yankees, and the Red Sox were like, well, now we can't lose our guy.
Yeah, so I think where we're at, I think with the Willson thing and the Cardinals, right, I agree with all that. I think they still need pitching. Their offense already has a lot of really good players, but maybe that's a luxury that they can afford, right? To just add another bat that is going to be productive, and they'll figure out the pitching from there. They're in that position right now to make a move and take that chance, right? And like you said, the Cubs made a decision not to, but they have to replace that offense. And if Bogarts is off the board, Judge has signed, and it's not with San Francisco, things have gotten very real for Jed Hoyer and that group very quickly.
Yeah, you need that Willson money today.
You need to act now. You are not in a position. If your plans hinge on bringing in certain guys, you need to do it. You can't be waiting around to do this, because I'm going to assume that Bogarts is going back to Boston. Usually these things follow a similar formula, right? Ken Rosenthal last night tweets, the Cubs are circling on Jameson Taillon. It's about 45 minutes. You're going to get the done deal.
I told
you
Taillon was going to happen
100%.
the second I heard Ryan Dempster raving him about it on the radio, and I was like, well, he knows. I mean, he just had drinks with David Ross the night before. That's the only name he brought up. And he's also the guy that mentioned the two players, and he said Swanson and Bogaerts. So that leads me to believe that Swanson is the guy, unless, like you said, you're trying to talk Correa into it. All I know is I hope the dream of two of them is not dead, but now I want to see Correa be the first piece.
Yeah,
you have to. I mean, you have to get one.
I'm
in a position where I wonder, like, who's Correa talking to, right? And how long is that going to drag out? Can you risk?
Giants have entered that.
Can you risk letting Dansby talk to the Braves anymore? Can you risk letting him talk to other teams? I don't know that you can. I think if you need a guy,
both, because
you got to go get him.
The Giants and Padres just had all this money set aside, reportedly more than the $360 million that the Yankees were offering.
Yep.
They're not just going to sit on that cash.
Right.
They now look at it like they've got an aging shortstop, great one, but an aging shortstop in San Francisco. They can take Carlos Correa and put him right there with that money and not even blink at it. And clearly the Padres can move guys around if they want to too. Like they were ready to spend the dough. So listen, if this gets passed today and the Cubs haven't signed Correa and or Swanson, tick-tock, you better get nervous because Bellinger and Taillon, while are nice signings, they're not the main course.
They better not be.
They're not the main course.
Well, and it goes to what we talked about yesterday, where we were looking at everything that was going on Monday with all the smoke, and you're hearing from Jed and Carter. I mean, Carter's on Marquee talking about shortstops. They're not even hiding the ball. Like, they're literally telling you, we're talking to shortstops.
It's kind of like what you said yesterday about how the Cubs can't fail at this
that's where we're at, where it's like, okay, so if Bogaerts is gone, if Willson goes to your biggest competitor in the division, like, you're in a position where if you don't make significant moves, you have a ton of egg on your face after what you're all putting out there on Monday and letting go on your network. There's no spin zone to that.
And there's
we tried. They chose different things. Nobody cares.
You can't. You stop worrying. If people are worrying about the Hayward deal, stop worrying about it because that deal now is nothing in baseball. When you see what guys are getting, you've got the deal for Judge, $360 million. So his AAV is 40. Trout is making 35.5. Correa last year made 35.1. Rendon makes 35. You're going to pay guys a ton of money to play baseball for you now if they're star players. So this has to happen. And it has to happen quickly because I don't like the teams that are left out there still looking for big money players because they all seem willing to outspend the Cubs right now. Like, you can't be too picky and too cautious about this. I agree. Go get one of them and then work on the second one by saying, look, we got him. We're saving the money for you too. I'm good with that plan. But if you lose both of them, all of a sudden your offseason goes from great to, this is what Jesse Rogers was talking about. This is not even as good as last year. You can't take a one-year flyer on Bellinger, which is great if you combine it with all the other moves, but you can't make it your marquee move, for a lack of a better word.
I wouldn't even say it's the marquee move.
The team is worse.
It has to be. It has to just be a move that you made this offseason.
I wouldn't even say it was the marquee move if it was between those two. I think Taillon's a
much bigger move,
marquee move. But
I
said this kind of last night. Like, I am a little nervous about where things stand, and I feel even more nervous now that Judge is off the board. And again, you kind of said it too. Like, the Padres offered 10 years, $400 to Judge, and he still went back to the Yankees for $360. Like,
yes,
I don't know what the Cubs got to do to convince some of these guys that the Cubs are trying to win next year. Like, that's honestly what scared me the most. Like, I feel like the Cubs should have already got Correa or Swanson at this point. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Maybe maybe it's because I'm just exhausted and I'm broken and all of this stuff. But like what else do the Cubs have to do to tell these guys that, hey, we're trying to win here, we're trying to build something here, we got guys around the corner coming up. Like, what, like, now, especially now that Judge is off the board. Like, I'm not surprised that Correa waited. But at this point, like, how much longer does Swanson wait for the Cubs to just offer this, I guess? And how much longer does Correa wait until these other the bidding war, I guess? Because, like, obviously he's already talked to the Cubs. He's got that offer. if the Padres or the Giants swoop in here and offer 10 years, $400 million or something like that, then like I can't take it.
Who's playing shortstop for the Dodgers?
Even the Dodgers might be able to
Lux,
swoop
I think,
in here,
probably.
right?
Like they're liable to do anything.
Get in the mix for the Correa, just like an outlier team that you haven't heard.
I'm at a very like I don't know what's going to happen.
They need a Steinbrenner move. They actually like I don't use Ricketts as a scapegoat for a lot of this stuff. Like I back him more than most people do. Here's what I will say: Steinbrenner from Italy on vacation. When Judge flew to San Diego to talk to the Padres and was ready to sign with the Padres or Giants, Steinbrenner called from vacation and said, give him another year, give him another $40 million. And Judge was like, done, I'm coming back, even though it's less money. So if that's what it takes, another year and another $40 million, even though you'll have to eat that cost at the end of a deal for one of these guys, that's the price of doing business these days. That's what you may have to do. You may have to overpay by a year. You might have to overpay by $50 million. But if you want to make this team good again, you have to get the base of this franchise set so that you can start building it with the prospects and more free agents. Yep. And this offseason has to be that offseason.
Yeah. And it's like really simple. Like if they don't get this done, they can make all the excuses they want. But unless they're, pulling trades or something like that, it's a failure. You've set the table. You need to make the moves, or you're going to be patting yourself on the back for being fiscally conservative or not giving that extra year, which isn't what any of the fans want. And it's a lot of the same stuff we've talked about repeatedly, and we'll rate them for it. Of course we will. They have to get it done.
I'd like to see them get one of the two shortstops. If they don't get two, even if they do get two, listen, the Cubs have enough money. Go. I'll say it again. I don't know if you're going to trade for Ohtani, if he's ever going to hit the market or not. But if he's a free agent next year, that's the next big conversation. And I don't believe these teams are all sitting around saving money for him, because they all also know that there's a really good chance he never hits the market.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and at this point,
if he does, everybody's going to be in on that paycheck.
The Cubs absolutely can't bank on that happening.
Well, and at this point, we'll see. Offseason's not over, right?
Yeah.
But even if you were going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that, why would you believe that they were going to do that?
No,
or do what it took to get that done? We need them to do that now. So all right, they got to get it done, and especially I think on Correa, right? You need, if that's your guy, you need to go get that done. You need to put it to him however you need to put it, like you just said with the Steinbrenner situation. Yeah. You need to call up Scott Boras and say, this is the offer.
The tom-tom drum is beating again.
No more talking.
Here's another $40 million.
Don't go talk to the Giants. This is the offer. Do it right now. That's it.
I can guarantee you that Correa is not taking less than $35.1 a year. That's what he made last year. Carlos Correa, whatever deal he's looking for, will not be an average of less than 35.1. It's what he made last year. Who says, what? I want to make less money on average than what I made last year when he's in free agency and he's coveted by all these teams.
Unless he cares about the years more than the money.
He's going to want both because he's got big teams bidding after him.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, he's probably got the Padres, Giants, Dodgers, Cubs.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm just saying that.
Who's to say the Yankees aren't still in on it?
Well, I will say that I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees swooped in just because their team isn't any different.
I wouldn't either.
Like they got Judge, right? But their team is still the same as last year, and there's a lot of pressure on their front office to fix what's going on there. So yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, we'll get to more.
Pressure's on, Jetty boy.
Yeah,
this is.
We hope Ryan's going to be able to join us here in a few minutes. He's in San Diego, boots on the ground for us. You can read all of his work at allchgo.com. But first, the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across our territory. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade their outdated lighting to energy and money-efficient saving LED lights. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor-outdoor lighting and networked lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than ever before. Visit ComEd.com/poweringbiz right now to start saving money and energy. And to start a project, contact ComEd at 1-855-433-2700. For more information, you can also email them at businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. Hopefully what's going to happen today is the Cubs get involved in the shortstop market. They sign a guy, and even though it's gloomy and gray outside, Cody needs to put on his Shady Rays because he's going to feel like a rock star again.
That's true.
That's what we're hoping for.
Or, that's what we're hoping for. If not, you can just put your Shady Rays on so you can not have to look at anything.
Hide the shame.
You can hide the shame. You can hide the fact that Willson Contreras is a Cardinal. You can hide your face from having to see all those stupid jersey swaps. With your Shady Rays, they never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear, lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Luke?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew that actually. Never mind.
Dropped in the lake, I know how
fishing, drop them in the lake.
Off a cliff. Why you'd be on a cliff, I don't know.
Skiing, maybe you're skiing and you go right off the edge.
Maybe you're
snowboarding.
Maybe you're on the red line and you drop them. I don't know. Like anything, they'll replace them. Even with that strong of a protection program, they will still manage to make quality that can tell you holding in my hand seems just as good as any expensive pair that I have ever worn. Shady Rays customers seem to agree with over 200,000 5-star reviews. Shady Rays also provides 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have donated over 20 million meals to date. They stand by their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. Free returns and exchanges, guys. It's insane. You either love the shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. You get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades. I will say that I read that better than the last time. So
yes. Yeah. It's always about improvement, moving forward. By the way, I mentioned
Ryan always reads this ad.
That's right. I brought up cloudy outside, and for the next 5 comments in the chat were weather conditions from our weather watchers out there here on the chat. Like Tom
I wish there was sun outside because then I feel like I would feel a little bit better about this whole Contreras thing. But
it's a dreary Chicago.
It's a very dreary, gloomy, cloudy, like
snowing in Arizona.
I was just about to say that's the best comment.
It's snowing in Arizona. Wow.
Well, I would assume that's more by like Tucson. Yeah. So last night we did the emergency podcast for those that were listening or downloaded after the Bellinger move later in the evening, hoping that we might get the shortstop news. Instead, we got rumors that Jameson Taillon would likely be happening soon. Then it happened late. I was asleep, and we'll finally talk about it.
Well, me and Corey were up.
You guys were still up, but decided, you know what? He's not the big fish we want to talk about, so we're going to just table that since we'd already done 2 podcasts. So here's the deal. I like it. It's a number 2, number 3 guy. Like, he was taken with the number 2 pick behind Bryce Harper. Like, he has the pedigree. It's been injuries that have been the problem throughout his career. He had cancer. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, but he was pretty good, really, for the Yankees. I know a lot of people were really high on him, and I think you get him in the pitch lab, maybe you can even uptick that one more, and that's what the Cubs are hoping for. Now, $68 million, that seems like an affordable deal for a guy when you stick him somewhere in the middle of the rotation. He's not the ace that you guys were all hoping for, right? He's not DeGrom, but that's way more affordable and potentially still leaves the door to filter in your young guys. When they make the move, they can pass him in the rotation, and he can start sliding down from 3 to 4, from 4 to 5 to a depth guy by the end of the contract, probably.
So I think Taillon has upside to be to a point to where maybe in a year or two we look back on the deal and you're like, wow, like they got really good value out of this deal. Only because if we're going to sit here and praise the Cubs pitching infrastructure, I feel like maybe you can come in and Tommy Hotovy can help make him better. But yeah, at the very least, I think he's a very solid innings eater.
Yeah.
God, I can't talk today. So yeah, no, I think 177 innings pitched last season. Yeah, an ERA under 4.
That's something they don't have. They haven't had either.
And he pitched in the AL East, and I know the Cubs are going to, the schedules are different now where they're going to be playing everyone basically, but he's going to be playing a lot more teams in NL Central where he's actually familiar because he used to pitch for the Pirates. He actually had a couple good seasons with the Pirates in 17 and 18, so you're thinking some of that can come back. And he's been healthy most of his career. I know he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, but in recent history, he's been healthy.
He pitched a lot of innings last year.
Yeah, and he pitched a lot of innings last year. So I think, honestly, I don't think it's a hot take to say this, but, the Cubs, they won 74 games last year. How many times did we watch them play a 1-run game? Or how many times did we watch them how many times did we watch them playing a 1-run game in the first half and somehow be in the game, but they had to use their entire bullpen in a lot of those games? Right? And that's why things fell apart in May and June because their bullpen was just done, right? A lot of the times. And so now you're inserting a guy like this and you can rely every 5th day that he can go out there to at least give you 5. I feel like. And so again, I think there's upside there for him to, really take that next step. Again, remember, this guy was one of the top pitching prospects for the Pirates before they just let him walk. I think they might have traded him. I don't know. But either way, if you look at the numbers on Fangraphs, yeah, he was very solid with the Yankees and with the Pirates. So, I think that this could be a really good situation for him to, I guess, maybe ascend to his best years.
And he throws harder than any regular Cubs starter from last season. His fastball is faster than the guys that they currently have. Now, they may have young guys, obviously, coming up that are going to throw harder than that, but currently the Stromans, the Hendricks, even Steele, his fastball is better than that, I believe. So that's something different, too. And he may not have to pitch 140, 150 innings this year because maybe the Cubs, if he is a rotation guy and they add one more free agent to the rotation and you add some other guys that are depth guys, maybe you are able to use Thompson and Alzolay and maybe even Wesneski as those bullpen guys that then do three plus innings in relief. And so that may be, the way they work the rotation this year. But again, this offseason is about adding as many good baseball players as you can. They've added another good arm. That was a good piece. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't think there's anything about this deal that anyone can just irrationally get upset about.
He's a solid piece. They're not paying him or acting like he's a star or an ace or anything like that. We saw last year how many guys they needed to cover those starts, right? They were bringing up guys. They were calling up guys. I mean, we saw it all the time. You need guys that are stable, durable, and that can go out there and, pitch over 150 innings. He doesn't walk guys. He doesn't get a lot of whiffs. He's not going to be the most overpowering pitcher you're going to see, but he's a solid depth starter. It's fine. It's a solid move for a team that needs more starting pitching.
Debbie says he's a great number 5. Yeah, in a perfect world, he's a great number 5. And that's the same thing I've said about Kyle Hendricks. If you can get Kyle to bounce back and be healthy, for the people that gave up on Kyle Hendricks, well, if Kyle's a number 5, it's a different situation than if you're talking about him as the ace of your staff. You're talking about building depth in the rotation. And you saw that the Cubs were able to still put out pitching that led to a record that was 8 games over the second half of the season, and it had nothing to do with their offense. It had everything to do with pitching.
Right.
So let me ask you this. In the tragic scenario that they do not get one of these shortstops, Swanson, Bogarts, or Correa, if you're then I know you don't even want to talk about it, but we didn't think we were going to talk about Willson Contreras to the Cardinals, and that has happened. So in the epically tragic event that they don't get one of these shortstops, would you then go all in on making sure you get Senga?
Yeah.
So that you've added two of those starters and just go heavy on the pitching this offseason?
And then I'd obviously I would be open to, going long term with Rodon then too.
Well, I should have said Rodon first.
Yeah. Well, the Cubs haven't been in rumors with Rodon, but that's what if they don't get one of those four, then I really think then you have to look at the team as being a defensive-minded, pitching-first team.
Oh, completely.
And we would sit here and
a bad offense would have gotten worse because they've lost Willson Contreras.
Yeah, but there's guys coming up next year.
You have to add good players.
Yeah.
So if you strike out on the...
I don't think the offense technically gets significantly worse, but I get what you're saying.
Well, if they bring in only a defensive-minded catcher.
Yeah.
And he isn't going to put up Wilson's numbers. I just told you, Willson in every new category that measures offense, Willson was their best offensive player. This is all why they can't lose out on the shortstop. You told us you got to add home runs.
They lost him, but they also played better without him in August.
They did.
They did,
but I just don't know if that's sustainable moving forward.
No, but
with an offense
again,
that
this
doesn't
roster
take
is
walks
going
and
to
doesn't
look.
need home runs.
The roster will look different next year. And again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do this or that. I'm just saying that what Luke said about this offense being worse. If it in a way, yes, but I'm saying
could very well
in a way. What I'm getting at is
sorry.
In a way, all I'm saying is if they did miss out, then this team would go full on, fully defensive minded, pitching first, and then honestly, they would they'd probably remind me a lot of kind of I don't know, like the Guardians in a way.
I mean, if you miss out on that route,
I think they might have a better offense than the Guardians at least. But I don't know.
I mean, when Cody Bellinger wins the MVP again,
right?
Right.
But then leaves.
You have to add good players.
You got to factor in some of the guys that will come up for the Cubs next year. There's a lot of minor league guys that are expected to come up, and again, you can't bank on them. But But I'm just saying, if they did miss out on some of these shortstops, then the version of this team would be very more pitching-oriented and in defense.
The issue I would have with that, I mean, look, at some point you have to add good players. If you miss out on certain things, you have to pivot somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Also, I'm not letting that slide. Sorry, Brandon. Lester was not garbage in his last several years in Chicago. That's just
I knew you were going to see that.
It's just not accurate. His last season was not good, but we're not
really
going to.
He's the greatest free agent signing in potentially Chicago sports.
They
history.
did not give him far too long.
Andre Dawson, John.
They did not give him far too long and big of a deal. He was worth way more than they paid him, and he was great for the Cubs for almost the entirety of that contract. Anyway, sorry, I can't let that go. We can't have that out there and not.
And
address.
He's still recruiting Bogarts.
My main issue with, if you're pivoting to defense and pitching is it still doesn't solve the issue that Jed Hoyer put out there. He said the offense wasn't good enough. He said the offense didn't have enough power.
Yes.
He said that good teams blow teams out.
Yes.
If you are missing on these shortstops, if you're not trading for Sean Murphy, if you're not making some other secret trade that we're not thinking of, signing Rodon would be great. Signing Senga would be great.
Yeah.
I love pitching. I love defense. But you need to score runs.
Yeah. And pitching is what you have coming in the farm system. The closest guys that are really going to be impact, unless PCA and these guys jump in. You've built your farm system mostly on pitching. There are position players, but really you focused on developing young pitching. All right, I'm
Brandon
sure we'll
is
have more on the
doubling down.
shortstop. Who is?
Brandon, he is doubled down, man. I don't know.
Fell apart after the World Series. Pat Hughes.
John Lester was almost a 3-win player in 2019. Like, what are we talking about here?
Can I bring the positive back? Can we get
Has
out
there
of
been anything positive on this podcast today?
Listen, last night we were all feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
But Judge signs, and you start to hear Bogarts might go back to Boston, and Willson goes to the Cardinals just to kind of stick it in your side a little bit. Yeah. And now we're all getting a little itchy. We're all getting a little itchy, a little scratchy, a little worried that it's not going to happen. They could still get 2 shortstops. They could still get a lot of different things, but it needs to happen. All right, here's positive. Pat Hughes is going into the actual Baseball Hall of Fame. Not just the Cubs Hall of Fame, the Ford C. Frick Award winner. And he's going in. I want to see Pat go in one of his beautiful sweaters. I don't want a jacket. Yeah. I don't want him to wear a jacket when he gives his speech. I want him in one of his 1990s multicolored, beautiful sweaters. Should we play? Is it 2 minutes? How long is the video? 2 minutes? Let's play it. This is the Cubs put out a clip of his best moments of his career so far. Of course, the next World Series would be the next one.
Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air from Wrigley Field in Chicago. Good evening, everybody. Along with former Cub and All-Star Ron Coomer, it's Pat Hughes reporting. Cubs in their home whites with the blue pinstripes all over. Blue hats, numbers, sleeves, and socks.
Here's the windup and the pitch. Yeah! And a miss, strike 3. 20 strikeouts for Kerry Wood. A little pop fly toward Mark Grace. He's waiting. He's got it. The Cubs are in the playoffs. The Cubs win. Kosuke hits a high fly ball. Back toward the wall is Gwynn. That ball is gone. Yes! 3-2 from Zambrano. Swing and a miss. Yes! No-hitter. Jake Arrieta has just pitched a no-hitter at Dodger Stadium. Get out the tape measure, long gone. Bodie drives one in the air. Deep center field. Back goes Taylor. It's got a chance. It's a grand slam. And the Cubs have won the ball game. Can you believe it?
Here it's a 6-6 tie in the 4th. Johnson 0 for 1. Some fan just jumped into our booth and grabbed a microphone, and you may have heard that hiccup sound. Get out of here, will you? Oh, that was not a fan?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was you, Ron?
We have some of the only lights on in the entire ballpark, which means we are very attractive to the bug community.
How's it going over there?
Eventful.
Eventful.
I wish all of you could be right here at this moment. Unbelievable atmosphere. Swing and a miss. Cubs win. Cubs win. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. The longest drought in the history of American sports is over, and the celebration begins.
I think his best call is, I wish you could all be here right now.
Absolutely.
Right? I think if he had one phrase that he said in his amazing career covering Cubs baseball, that one captured the moment perfectly for what he was feeling and what I think a lot of people around the country and world were feeling. Like you wanted to be with all your friends that were Cubs fans and you wish you could all be there at that moment. So that was, and the second thing I think of from that video, and first of all, congratulations to Pat Hughes, is damn, I miss Ron Santo.
Absolutely, I think that
they
every
were
time.
such a great combo. Yeah. A lot of those calls in the beginning, Hughes' call was great, and then Santo's just reaction or screaming was the perfect ending to it. Like you didn't have the punctuation on what he had said yet until you had what Ron Santo would deliver afterwards. So I know you're super excited.
Well, he deserves it. And he deserved it a long time ago when he lost to Hawk Harrelson in one of the greatest injustices in Hall of Fame voting history.
Yes.
But he deserves it. He deserved it
In all my years.
when he got the nod in, the Cubs Hall that they're building. I mean, that one's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But he deserves to be enshrined in Cooperstown and have this honor and get the spotlight on him. I said it at the time. Like he seems like a very humble guy anytime he does these interviews or anytime this stuff happens. But he deserves to have a little bit of spotlight on him and get national and worldwide attention for the job that he does. And, I could wax poetic about it forever, but I mean, there is a reason.
That's why we didn't let you write the article for all CHGO.
It would have been really weird.
Because we knew it was going to take too long. We didn't have that much space on the internet.
I think that there are very few broadcasters, especially on the radio, that can create and formulate a relationship with a fan base that the way that Pat has with the Chicago Cubs. You can meet a ton of people who will tell you that the reason they're Cubs fans, the way they got into the Cubs fans, the way they became more knowledgeable about being Cubs fans and baseball fans is because of Pat Hughes. And he deserves it. I was overjoyed when I saw that this morning because I couldn't deal with him getting snubbed again on something that he just deserves. He is one of the best of all time at his craft, and he deserves to be recognized for it.
And you should buy his DVDs.
Yeah, and CDs.
And CDs, yeah.
Our friend Ryan Herrera tweeted out a quote from Pat Hughes about his relationship with Cubs fans, and it's one of the best audiences you could possibly have as a performer. They are so kind and gracious and passionate about the game, and they really do appreciate the effort that I give. I know they do. So he knows.
He knows. And by the way, enjoy the calls from Pat Hughes. We just went through a season that was one to forget, really. But hopefully you listen to some games on the radio and still appreciate what he's doing. Like that might be more difficult than being a great broadcaster in 2016. He's trying to get you through hours of calling baseball and still entertaining you while you can't see the game. In a time and age where everybody wants to see everything, he's using his voice and the natural sound coming through the microphone to not only take you to that place, but somehow get you to enjoy and find it interesting for almost 4 hours some nights on a game when they're playing the Pirates and there's 3 hits in the game.
Yeah.
And he's able to do it like that. That's masterful. Mm-hmm. As much as the great calls are during that you'll never forget, those are just as masterful. So look forward to his calls again this season, and you don't know when that run is going to end for Pat, but enjoy the fact that you have one of the all-time greats calling your games on the radio and sometimes on television now too, and now you can say you have a Hall of Famer calling the games on the radio and sometimes on television too. So a huge congratulations to Pat Hughes. I'd love to get him on the podcast sometime soon. I think that'd be fun. But I know Jared Willis is going to have a really nice article about him at allchgo.com coming out later today, and we look forward to that. And Ryan has information coming to you at allchgo.com. Make sure you get that diehard status so you get all of the updates, but a lot more of it has been moved from behind the paywall now so that you can get to that. Cody, do you have a DraftKings pick of the week for us? By the way, congratulations on the Illini. I know we said it last night, but
yeah, no,
that was big for you.
Illinois
I know.
is a basketball school. Horns down. Sorry, Joey.
No, you're not.
Yeah, so
He's not sorry.
He's not sorry.
He wouldn't have been sorry if they beat Michigan in football either. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, so tonight I'm plugging my nose. I'm taking Michigan State plus 4.5 against Penn State. Game's at 5:30. Michigan State's kind of struggled of late. They've sustained an injury, and Penn State's kind of they're kind of a sneaky ball club. They're good. They're at home. They're 4.5 point favorite at home. But I'm gonna take Izzo coming off a loss to Northwestern, going into Penn State. So yeah, that's what I like tonight, Stuck. I also like Siena plus 5.5 against Georgetown, but that's real D-gen for you. If you want to go real D-gen like I am.
Luke does.
I'm just trying to see if this is legit or not.
Are we getting breaking news?
Well, somebody in the chat is saying that Heyman is reporting Correa to the Marlins for 10 years, $400 million. I have not seen that.
That's true.
I think that might be a fake account. I haven't seen it on his.
Why would you do that?
I don't see it on his account. I'm on the actual John Heyman Twitter account.
That's why no one's
So
listening
I
to
believe-
my pick of the week. Thanks, Brady. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
I was
joke,
ignoring
guys.
you.
I
And-
will say, I was playing Call of Duty the other day with my guy Mike Dubs, and someone came into the YouTube chat and told us that, and said that Xander Bogaerts was signed with the Cubs, and I completely believed it and like went crazy. So, and then I realized that it's not true, and then I felt really stupid. So,
All right, so that is definitely bogus at the moment. Game Time, by the way, the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. And if you've ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, 50-yard line, courtside,
Shout out
behind
RDB.
home plate, floor seats at a concert, it is possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Bulls tickets. We've got a takeover coming, by the way, created by the fans, for the fans, guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, you're going to love Game Time, and the best way to support us is by buying your tickets this season through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. The one and only Ryan Herrera joins us from San Diego. That is Ryan_A_
Hi, Ryan.
Herrera. And we have a three-quarter zip today. It still must be chilly in San Diego. But are things heating up, Ryan? Are things heating up again in the shortstop market?
The stove's heating up. I mean, the rumors keep bouncing around. You don't really know. I mean, I guess the big things that have gone down so far today have been non-shortstop related. Aaron Judge back to the Yankees. Obviously, I'm sure this has been a somber podcast because of Willson Contreras reportedly going to the St. Louis Cardinals. That's my question. How are you guys feeling right now?
Cody's surprisingly good. Like, he's a little mellow. It's a little dreary here.
Everyone in the Slack
but he's better
channel,
than I thought.
Everyone in the Slack channel this morning was like, "Oh, we got to make sure we clip the first 5 minutes of the podcast." I'm like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay.
It is something Cody said wasn't going to happen because the Cardinals don't do things like this.
And they did it.
And it did happen. We got that news. Cardinals make a move that helps them. Obviously, it hurts the Cubs and makes things a little complicated when Willson Contreras does make his return to Wrigley Field, which now will be at some point next season. I don't remember the exact day Cardinals play at Wrigley Field the first time, but it will come
what did I
next
say?
season.
May 8th?
Yeah.
May 8th.
There you go. So May 8th, about a little over a month into the season, Willson will make his debut. I mean, we saw how Chris Bryant was received when his return. We saw how Chris Bryant was received when he made his return with the Giants a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
now
not the Cardinals.
I'm curious to see how Willson Contreras gets, how he's received when he does make it back to Wrigley Field.
The Judge news was early this morning, and I pointed out that the reports have been that Steinbrenner was in Italy, heard that Judge was in San Diego to talk specifically with the Padres who were offering more money, and that Steinbrenner said, you know what, give him another year, give him another $40 million. He went outside of his comfort zone. Do you think that is the type of thing that may have to happen for the Cubs? Because I'll tell you this, Ryan, I don't know what it's like in San Diego. I can just tell you the panic level is real close here in Chicago. It's gone from here to about here, and now with Judge signing and a lot of teams, there's no reason not to think that the Giants, the Padres, the Yankees, the Dodgers, these other teams aren't in on some of these shortstops. Red Sox on Bogaerts. Do you think they will have to go out of their comfort zone to get it done?
Yeah, I think that's the general vibe, for any team right here. That's the vibe around the winter meetings. Is you see what happened with Trey Turner, $300 million over 11 years, higher than kind of what he was projected, right? Higher than expected. Aaron Judge, 9 years, $360 million. I think those, both of those are a little bit higher than what he was projected. So it seems like teams kind of came in. I mean, look at the pitching market. The pitching market, things have heated up. I think Jameson Taillon maybe got a little bit more than what he was projected. Taijuan Walker maybe a little bit more as well. Teams are paying a little bit higher prices than probably what they felt they would needed to coming in to this week. And so it seems like with that happening and the way the market is shaping out, the way the market's been set, teams are going to have to go out of their comfort zone, may have to pony up a little bit more. So if Carlos Correa, if the Cubs want to get him still, Trey Turner, again, 11 years, $300 million. I don't think Carlos Correa is going to take a steep discount from that to come to Chicago, right?
Nope.
So if they want to go get Carlos Correa still during this offseason, they may, I don't know that they have to match that, but they're going to have to, it's going to be in that ballpark. It's going to be in the ballpark of what Trey Turner got. Xander Bogaerts, he's probably not going to be at that level, but he's probably still going to get over what he was expected to get coming in. I think prior to this week, the expectations were sub $200 million for total value of his deal. He may end up getting 200 or more at this point, just the way the market's shaping out. So, it gets to the point where we kind of know what the front office of the Cubs feels they want to, where they're comfortable, where their comfort zone is, right? Maybe they don't want to hit 6. They don't want to hit 8 years. Maybe 6 or 7 is pushing it, right? They don't want to go 8 or more. But at this point, if they're really truly invested in competing next year, wanting to get the best players for this team to be good next year, and going to, they really want to get one of these guys, they're going to have to push past where they came in feeling comfortable.
Well, Judge's AAV of $40 million a season is now the highest AAV for a deal in baseball. And Correa was making over 35 last year for the Twins. So if the Cubs want to get less years on the deal, they're going to have to push from above 35 a year to get Correa somewhere closer to the 40. I'm not saying how close it's going to be. They probably don't have to hit 40, but they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone if he's the guy they absolutely want to get. What else do you have? You have Rule 5 draft today, right? And
Rule 5 draft in a couple hours, yeah.
So you figure the Rule 5 draft is coming. That takes up some portion where there aren't deals being made. Like when the Rule 5 draft is going on and they're trying to figure out who they want, maybe they can have somebody else work on that, but there's a portion of time gone. It's just getting close to when the end of the real deal making is done at the winter meetings. Like, man, it's getting close, Ryan. Do you feel that do you think it's getting tense for the Cubs front office?
Tense, no, but just because listening to kind of what Jed said the other day of, even with Trey Turner signing on the first day of winter meetings, they weren't going to change their strategy of how they wanted to do things. Obviously, coming in, there was a sense of urgency, right? And what maybe didn't have to do with anything outside of the Cubs know they have to be better next year. Otherwise, they're going to take another hit as far as how the fan base goes. I think it was since 1997, not including the COVID years. Like this is the lowest total of fans that have gone to Wrigley Field during an entire Cubs season, something like that. They don't want to do that again. So there was always that sense of urgency to start making deals and getting the guys that they need to be competitive next year. But I don't think this week specifically has forced any more urgency onto Jed Hoyer, Carter Hawkins, or the rest of the front office to do things. They're going to do what they feel is the right way and the right process and the right timing to get these things done. They've been talking to this whole week. They've been talking to agents, players. They've been making offers. They're going to continue making offers. They're doing the due diligence. It may just take some time, and I don't think they have any more urgency now than they should. I think they have a sense of urgency to get this stuff done, but it's not kind of going overboard to the point where they're making irrational decisions, which is, of course, something Cubs fans don't want to happen.
I think it was Sean that put in the chat. He said they're going to have to go like 8 years, $300 million, which would be an average of mathing like $37 million a season or something like that for Correa, whoever they want. I just think it's getting more expensive by the day as they let more guys come off the board. And that certainly is the strategy of some of these guys like Correa who are sitting there like, I'll wait and see what plays out because he knows that somebody's going to give him that money. And there's a lot of big market teams that have that kind of cash and want that type of player. So that'll be interesting. Any smaller names that you've heard, the Taillon deal is done. Any smaller names while we wait for the shortstop market that you think or have heard that the Cubs might be working on or at least kicking the tires on?
Not specifically. I know, we're I know Sean Murphy is one as far as the trade market goes that we've heard the Cubs be connected to. As the free agent market, I know, the Christian Vasquez and maybe to a lesser extent Omar Narvaez is still on the Cubs' radar. But like we've talked about recently, that kind of catching first base feels like it's starting to go lower on the priority list. Same with catcher. I mean, they got the center fielder off the board. They have a starting pitcher off the board. Going to first base. I mean, we know that the Cubs were in on Jose Abreu, who obviously went to Houston. So now that the drop off from like him and Anthony Rizzo level to the rest of the first base is a little steeper. And now that they reportedly have Cody Bellinger in the mix, it's a guy that can play first base as well. Relief pitching is still going to be something the Cubs are going to focus on at some point this offseason. At this point, it feels like the main focus is one of those bigger name, shortstop is something that the Cubs are focused on, and that's probably what they should be focused on because they're starting to run out of them. Trey Turner's off the board; they got 3 more, and we know that's where the big money is going to be. The big names are coming from that part of the market. And that's probably where they should keep the focus at. But, you got little small rumors, names all across the board. And I'm sure we're going to keep monitoring that throughout the rest of the offseason because now that things have picked up, it doesn't feel like they're going to slow down that much. I think it feels like things may be coming on pretty quickly.
Sounds good. I know you're still busy, Ryan. We appreciate it. You got stuff coming, allchgo.com. I know we're working on some Pat Hughes news and stuff there. What else you working on today? I
know Corey's having a great day. Pat Hughes, Jared's putting something together. We just got off Zoom with Pat before I hopped on. I'll be working on possibly some Willson Contreras stuff, which I know Cubs fans are looking forward to reading. Willson Contreras going to the Cardinals, but just general stuff, winter meetings, the atmosphere here, and on the last day, Rule 5 draft, like you mentioned, is coming up. So if the Cubs make a pick that we don't foresee, maybe, or if they lose someone that could have been of value to this team, of course we'll keep updated on that.
And then you can scrap it all when they get Correa for $320 million. So.
Exactly.
All right, Ryan, thanks. We appreciate it. And thanks to everybody that joined in the chat today. Again, if we have breaking news on a shortstop or another signing from the Cubs, we'll jump right back in like we did yesterday with an emergency podcast. If we have to, we hope we have to. We hope that's what's going to happen this afternoon, but we're all getting a little nervous. Thanks to everybody for watching the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download that app and sign up using the code CHGO. We'll see you hopefully soon. Until then, fly the W.